and welcome to Game Brain, a podcast about our gaming group. I'm Ben Mandelker, and joining me today
is Paul Satachet. Hey, everyone.
Well, hi, Paul. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Look at you, jumping right in, taking the reins in a way that we've always been waiting for.
Oh, look at me, like just taking a proactive role in my life, like, ditching off that sidekick energy and becoming the main character.
I know. Now it means it's time for me to recede. How are you doing, Paul?
I'm doing well. I have, Thai food and milkshake in my stomach, so I don't know how long I'm going to last, but we're going to see.
You are so lucky. I have not too much in my stomach. I have like a croissant from earlier in the day that I picked up and ate.
So you're driven by hunger.
Well, I tried to be good to myself by making myself a healthy vegetarian late lunch where I made broccolini with a farro, and I was like, I need to, because I'm trying to like lower my blood pressure a little bit. So I'm like, let me have this healthy thing. And the goddamn dish was so salty. I was like, I hate when I make something healthy and I get punished for it.
Oh, that's worse.
But it's probably my fault somewhere along the way. It tasted really good. It just was oversalted.
You cooked it, right?
I cooked it. I punished myself. The point is this: I don't have something as beautiful as what you have, and I'm teetering into hunger as we record, which means I'm going to be more of a lunatic than usual. And I hope everyone, including you, is ready for this.
I am not ready for it, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, tell me what's going on. So we're here to talk some board games.
Board games, love it.
I have just spent a week in New York, so I really didn't get to play any games, except I played a virtual game. But you did get to play not only a real game, but a hot real game.
Yep.
What did you play?
So Matt Robinson got Inventions.
Yeah,
and
by Vital Lacerda.
By Lacerda, and we played it. And
yeah,
I had a great time. I came in dead last, but I thought it was. Let's see, how should I say it? I'm not always
inventive.
Inventive. That's right. It had some innovation. No, that's different game. I can't do the puns, Ben. That's not fair.
It's from a different age.
But like, I'm not always a big Lacerda fan as. I don't believe the Gal race is the end all be all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But that said, like, I felt like this was interesting enough that I stayed engaged. Came dead last, but
that's okay. We don't have to win to be.
Yeah. Like, I will say that when I play Lacerda games, especially the first time, the learning game, I'm just pulling levers.
That's okay too.
Yeah. No,
but you're trying to win though. You're not. You're still trying to be an active member of the table.
Yes, I'm playing with a strategy in mind, but like my overall is trying to see how this works. Like, you try to win the second and third game, but if you only play the one mechanism that you understand in a Lacerda game, you're going to be miserable.
Yeah.
And so I did something that I don't normally do, and I played with Tom versus against Tom.
Wow. Okay.
So that didn't dead last, so it doesn't matter. But like, but there were times where we go like, hey, we're gonna do this, and and
at what point did he backstab you?
He did not really backstab me. Here's the thing that made me really irritated, is that he was ahead of me in turn order, right ahead of me, and when I would want to do something like that was like really beneficial for me. Like, Jordan would advise Tom, here's what you should do, Tom.
Oh, okay. So at what point did Jordan get you with a knife?
Always out of the gate. He's always out of the gate. Like,
by the way, I love Tom and Jordan. I just love to get them shit on the podcast because it's fun.
But like, but it's one, Jordan has his like, oh, I'm just playing. Oh, like, no, I'm not doing that well. And then all of a sudden, like he's beating us by like, like orders of magnitudes.
People, wait, I feel like one thing that we have never really established, or maybe we just don't establish it enough, is that Jordan is a really good board game player.
Yeah.
And he often just like, once he like puts his foot on the pedal, you're left behind. So as much as we talk about like, oh, Jordan's a killer, let's not take away from the fact that he wins these games with his own adeptness.
He knows how to play games.
Yes.
And here's the thing, and I'm going to say on the podcast, he's in his prime where we're on the decline. Because I was going like, oh, look at that. Like, I can see my age coming into play now where like Jordan like is
he's only going to get sharper for the next
for the next 10 years.
10 to 15 years, he's only going to get sharper.
Yeah, like, and so I'm going like, oh, this is where I might have experience, but this requires some processing power. And I'm either not willing or unable to put in that processing power that is fairly easy for Jordan right now.
Right.
And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. It's the first time I've ever noticed that in a game.
Can you tell me what this game actually is about and what it is? I don't know anything. The elevator pitch.
The elevator pitch is a Civ game, which it isn't. Okay. But basically you are coming up with ideas, inventing things, and spreading ideas into the world. And as you do that, you get points. That's it. Like, okay. And there are various ages. So like at one time you're learning how to trade. That's a technology, trade.
Okay.
And by era 6 or 5, you have the internet.
Okay.
And so like they're worth various amounts of points. There's some area control, and the actions all make sense enough. Mm-hmm. And the theme is okay enough.
Yeah.
But I really had a good time, like wrestling with it, I suppose. Like, I think the thing that I like the most, and I don't normally like this, is that other people don't block your move. You block your move. So
what do you mean by that?
So like there are 10 actions and they're in 2 columns. And so like 2 is 5. So like let's say you put one of your pawns in a like the first column in the first row. Then you cannot use the first column second column first row. So where you put your little pieces blocks where you can put your next pieces.
Okay.
So that controls a little bit of what you can do. And there's this chaining aspect that you get to do if certain actions allow you certain other actions. And so you're trying to build these combos with your actions, knowing that like some actions are not available to you because of what you designed.
I'm right.
And so, like, I know it sounds a little...
No, that sounds very Lacerda, which is like, I feel like with Lacerda games, sometimes I feel this like chicken and egg thing. Like you have to you have to lay the egg, but you need the chicken first. And where is the on-ramp to the loop that's going around the city?
And there was some talk about on Mars and how, there's like
on Mars, cycle there.
It's like there's a cycle that you need to find. And in this game, there's probably less of one, but I don't know. Like I played one game, and I came into I'm not the best person to talk about it.
But I really respect what you're saying, because you and I are the only 2 people, it seems, in this entire group that really had a lukewarm at best response to Weather Machine. And people have been trying to convince us since then. And by the way, I will play it again. It's been removed enough now that I'm totally down to revisit Weather Machine, which is, let's talk about the topic from last episode, which is like a game
second
that you were second chances, second win game. I mean, maybe no pun intended. That would be a perfect Weather Machine. Weather Machine would be a perfect second win game for me, I think.
So good. It's fun. So good.
Yeah. What can I say? But we both were very lukewarm on Weather Machine, and so the reason why I'm saying this is because it means to me that you are not a Lacerda apologist. Yeah, not saying that everyone else in our group is, but you, I think, will be the least at this point, according to my experiences. Because as far as I know, it seems like everyone else really enjoys Lacerda. So what I'm trying to say is it means something to me that you didn't like Weather Machine, but you do like this game.
Yeah, no, I think Tom had a few reservations about it, because Tom didn't like the fact that one was blocking their self, as opposed to having the interaction of like, I take an action and you can't take that. Like kind of like Toledo would be an example of that. Like, I do something, you can't do that thing because I took. Anyway.
Well, where does the interaction come in the game then?
the interaction comes down to area control in the center, and basically, what do you call it when you take something that someone else needs?
Passive aggression.
Sure.
Some people would say that's passive aggressive.
But like,
in board game sense, like it's like a passive indirect interaction.
Yeah, and so like if Tom had planned the things that Jordan was suggesting to him to do, that would be what the interaction would be. Because Tom twice stymied me in a way that was like I just started not yelling at Jordan, but I was going, damn it, Jordan. Like, I have no problem if Tom found this by himself, but like, you mapping out how this is going to play for him, it's not my favorite. And here's the thing that's hilarious. I do it all the time.
Yeah. Listen,
so it's good for the gander.
On Watch What Crappens, Ronnie and I always say that we are card-carrying members of the Hippocratic Party, which is that we complain about things all the time that we actively do.
Yeah.
I mean, I do that. I do it all the time. I point out constantly what people should be doing. And then when I'm still traumatized from Democker last year when Jordan made sure that everyone knew that I was in the lead.
Sure.
And then everyone piled on me. I was so angry by that. And yet I have frequently done things like that. So, I guess that's the joy of board gaming, right?
Yeah, no. You can be your best worst self.
Yeah, we can lean onto our hypocrisies. So when you take, so you can block yourself from the game, but you don't block an action for someone else. So people can take the same action you take.
Yes, and like that, and the cost of that, is that it may give you something like if my big pillar is in a square and then someone moves into that square, I get an extra bump on like influence or something like that. So
those kind of interactions I think are always fun because you're not saying how can I deprive someone, but like what benefits do I want to give someone, which is, by the way, not too unlike something like Hansa Teutonica. Hansa Teutonica is based on that, where now you are going places hoping that you get bumped. And maybe with Inventions, maybe part of it is that in an initial play, you're just doing your own thing and trying to find success. But as you get experience with it, the emergent strategy is actually it's more important for me to go where
people are going to
go. I mean, were the bonuses significant enough like that?
It was worth 10 points to Tom. He played that game. Here's where people need to be. I'm going to go here now. So there's a certain understanding of the rhythm that works out.
So maybe he'll feel more of that interaction as other people play it like that as well.
Maybe. I think there's an interesting little, I don't want to say little, but a shift in the gaming paradigm. And I don't know if I'm over speaking, but I feel like there was a style of a game where denial was the thing, where you go oh, I'm going to do this, you can't do this. And you go, oh, I should have done that earlier. I should
Cusco's of that era.
Agricola is that way, right?
Agricola.
Yeah. So and there is value in that type of game, but the inverse now it seems to be one of, oh well, who am I going to be helping? If I do this, I might help this person here, and they might win. So then now I can't do that. I'm not being blocked by. So in some ways, it's almost a more interesting space if you can get into it, where you are making these considerations of helping this person may in fact be your demise. So then there's this balance weighing of oh, how much do I help someone? I think that's a worthwhile space to explore. And so in this way, I feel like the mechanic that is established does that.
Yeah, it makes me think of when you said deprivation. I went to Western Empires. Speaking of trauma games, and the only reason why I'm really wedging that in is because this is sort of a tangent. But I don't know if you heard, but there is going to be I just learned this on the Blue Peg Pink Peg podcast that Western Empires is returning this year.
Oh wow!
As Mega Empires: The West English edition, and I think there's going to be Mega Empires the East. But anyway, for people who are wanting Western Empires that didn't get their hands on it, It's going to be coming back. It's mega empires because there was mega civilization, which then became Western empires. So just want to put that out there
Well, there you go.
for this thing. I'm sorry, I just got very distracted by the idea. I was
you're hungry.
What you're talking about. I'm hungry. What you're talking about though, the deprivation, the paradigm, paradigm shift. I think it's okay that we've moved away from those those intense. I don't know. Actually, I don't know because I feel like Agricola. What makes Agricola so fun is that is the stress that it induces. Sure. For me, I'm not I'm not playing it on that competitive level where there's different, but it's that stress that you have right now you have to make a Sophie's choice between wood and reeds and this and that and children and sheep and whatever. And it's every turn is like that. And it's so intense. And when I look at something like Fields of Arle, which is more you can do anything you want. How do you edit? It doesn't have, it's intense, but in a different way. And so there is something really good about that deprivation aspect, that deprivation paradigm that you talk about. Yeah. But I think that sometimes the deprivation paradigm teeters into punishing gameplay in a way that's not always fun.
So I had this conversation with a millennial. I am not a millennial. But and we're talking about I say bullying. Or maybe hurt feelings. And so in a certain generation, as the younger the generation is right now, the more premium it is that your feelings don't get hurt by people intentionally, particularly.
Right.
Whereas when I was growing up, that was sport. Your ability to take and give bullying was a metric of whether, you were worthy,
right, how tough you are.
Exactly. Thor's hammer kind of thing. And so, and I would say we've moved away from that as a society, in some areas, but I feel there was some value in that. In the same way, there is value in the game deprivation type, where you're knife fighting,
right? I think there is value in that, and not being coddled in life, right?
100%,
you want to be able to face tough things, and you want to be able to learn how to push through and persevere
in a safe space.
In a safe space, but I think what's happened is that we've had a growing awareness of how a lot of times there are a lot of toxic elements that come with that.
Sure, 100%.
And so it's about trying to get the benefits of these situations while trying to weed out the toxic elements. And for some people, weeding out the toxic elements actually translates to let's weed out all of the difficult elements.
And I think that's a very apt way of putting it. I think in a way, what is the difference between a game that's punishing versus a game that is engaging in that way? There's that line.
I think that sometimes if you are feeling punished by a game or a person in a gaming situation, if you're feeling bad, what I try to weed out is when people try to make me feel bad because they need it to feel better about themselves, which is very trite. It's that's elementary school. People put you down because they want to make themselves feel better. But there are a lot of people who do that to kind of empower themselves because they're not empowered in other areas of their life. Or they want to teach a lesson. They want to do something that they're kind of exorcising something. And when you feel that energy, it's not nice. And you're that was what you just did was toxic. And you were just you are at the end of a cycle. There was some cycle that happened in your life. It could be generational. Sure. It could be just a cycle that happened in the workplace, but it has now come through you. This is the ring, right? You have to pass it on otherwise. And it's now you're putting that onto me and you're making me part of your cycle. And, I might have to pass it on now because it's in me. Yeah. I'm not saying I think about when that happens. I don't think these things, but I feel on some level in a flash, these are all the emotions you feel. And when you feel that, it feels unfair. It feels unjust. And it feels why didn't you get your shit sorted out before you took it out on me? Yeah. But there are other times when I think people are harsh, and it feels they're harsh because they want to, they actually see something in you, and they know that that you'll be able to take it, and this is going to sort of like move the needle a little bit more in your life to being able to handle tougher situations.
Yeah, like Trey, we'll all fit and say he does a hard move and goes like, respect. He'll say that respect because it's going to be like, I know that you can take this. This is not because I'm being mean. He'll say that. Whereas now with this Lacerda game, for example, it almost removes that. It removes all. In some ways, it removes all the punishing aspect, not all, but the aspect of oh, I'm doing this to you,
right?
And now the burden is okay, without that pressure, can you still thrive? It's a different mentality completely,
right?
Which in some ways is a more contemporary thought process right now,
right?
Where where do you give your attention? Where do you give your favor? Because you're going to have to probably, and if you give it to the wrong person, or they're going to beat you,
right? And I think that sometimes, as much as I'd love the Agricola style, Agricola is just going to become our example of this, of a blocking, and this is not leading to a but. I don't have any issues with Agricola.
Sure.
Sometimes there are some games where you feel like the blocking or the player versus player interaction is sort of like a big distraction from the actual fun of the game. Fun, sometimes the blocking is just oh, you blocked me and I don't have any more meaningful choices to make, and therefore I can't access the meat of this game right now.
Yeah, no, I like that.
Whereas with Agricola, you block me, I have to do something else. And same with Cusco, by the way. I will probably do a proper deep dive with Cusco soon. We've certainly been flirting with it enough. But Cusco is the sort of game where you will frequently shut down an action spot for someone. And it has often, especially when people are playing for the first time, and created sore feelings. I'm saying this not to pick on Tom, but the first time when we played with Tom, in that first round, it seemed like he was put at a disadvantage because of turn order. But it turns out the game just sends you in a different path.
Sure.
And that's also super fun. And so whenever a game can give you different paths that are fun.
As opposed to throw you into a dead end.
Yeah, then I think the blocking is good. Although there was when I played with Matt did have to take the consolation spot once or twice. And so he was feeling a little bit of the dead end.
Oh, well then.
So maybe Cusco is not the best example, but Agricola, I think there's always something to do in Agricola.
Sure. Speaking of Matt. So one of the things that
Matt Robinson, that is.
Yeah.
Fearless leader of our podcast.
Is that he started BGA, a board game arena game of Terraforming Mars. And I'm not a big fan of this game.
I know. I am a big fan.
Most people are.
I need to play it.
I am not.
I have a big box sitting right there. I've got that freaking big box, and has not been ever since that big box is a curse. I kickstarted it, and I used to get that game to the table reliably. And as soon as I got that big box, it was
off the radar.
No one wanted to touch it. No one wants to play Terraforming Mars with me anymore.
So we were talking about how Matt is a person who is hot on games, right? And so when he's into Agricola, he's like, I don't know if we're playing any other game. Agricola is the best game ever.
I was like, it's the most exciting thing happening in our hobby right now.
That's right. And then and so he Terraforming got into BGA. I don't know why we play anything else. This is just the best game. And then he pulled out the big box. You know what? The big box is pretty. The components are great. I love them. I didn't see them before, but he
pulled out his big box.
Yeah, and I was like, oh wow, this is actually very good.
Yeah, they're really pretty components, which is why I sit here and I stare at it and I don't ever play it. But actually, that's my fault. I don't think I advocate for it enough. I just like to blame other people sometimes.
Sure. Hypocrisy.
Yeah, that's
anyway,
how I get through.
So we're playing Terraforming Mars online async. And to my surprise, I'm having a great time.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm having a great time. I'm going oh, this is maybe async is the way, because sometimes async is better for some games.
And I would like to just, by the way, point out, because it has been an issue that has come up on this podcast in this group, the 5-player game issue, that Terraforming Mars does play 5 players. And in fact, I do believe I did suggest it as a 5-player game once, and it was shot down by everyone. So I would like the court to know I am innocent of the charges that I don't advocate for Terraforming Mars.
Fair enough. And you know what? It seems to me that like sometimes we get into these cycles, whether it be in our lives.
I just unleashed some generational Terraforming Mars trauma on you.
Anyway, so I'm having this time.
Such a good game.
This good enough time. Like this good time. I'm enjoying. I'm going back to BGA. Like did Trey move yet? Like he's like on a plane.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he didn't have internet. Damn it. You know, like, and so whatever. And then I get this card, you know, where I go like, oh, I could knock out like you know, some plants, and the only plant person that is really worthy to knock out is Matt, because he has enough. And I'm like, you know what, I'm not going to do that because I'm having a good time.
You're not going to unleash your generational trauma on Matt by destroying 3 of his you know, basil plants.
Yeah, and so today I was at the Thai restaurant. I go and look at my, and Matt has moved. It's my turn. Turns out he dropped an asteroid on me, and it wiped out 6 of my plants.
Do you still have the card where you can destroy his plants?
I did, and I unleashed back at him, but like I was so livid. I was so livid at him. I go like, you know, I don't love this game, but I'm playing because of friendship. And
I know exactly this feeling. This happened. That was me with Western Empire.
It was.
That was me, where I'm like, I don't really want to play this game, but I'm going to do it because I know like this is important for Tom, etc. And I was like, I'm going to do it. And then I wasn't really liking it. And then when everything went to shit, I was like, I don't even want to play this game. And I'm getting beat up because, you know, you sort of fall into this like,
sounds just like that.
This whiny mentality where you're like, well.
And so I was so like, I finished my Thai food, but I was pissed.
Yeah,
I was anger eating. I was like, oh, I can't believe he did that. And here's what's hilarious.
Did you have a plant-based meal? Because that would have been so terrible.
That would be, no. It's well within everyone's paradigm to attack me. This is not like, you know, this is not crazy. But here's the thing: I was looking through the log, and it looked like basically he didn't do it, and then he undid his action, and then did it.
Wow. Well, I mean, but Terraforming Mars, though, I mean, it has famously been discussed. The attacky elements of Terraforming Mars have not been very well received because they often. That is the dick kind of interaction where a lot of times it feels like it's all optional, and it feels like the designers threw it in there because they're like, we need to make people interact. So how about there's this? Wait. And some could make an argument that no, it's a worthwhile check and balance. Yada yada.
So with that though, like, you know, he attacked me, I attacked him. The only person who really benefits is Trey.
Of course.
Yeah, and he's one.
I bet Trey texted Matt and said, "You better drop that asteroid on Paul." I bet you just watch. You just watch.
That I do not know. You know, like he's on his cruise right now.
He wouldn't do that.
No.
And you would say respect.
That's right. They say respect like that. But like, you know, so it was just one of those things where I was like, oh,
yeah, deep breath.
Because I am having a good time playing it, but like, you know, but then all of a sudden, pow, like. Are you really having a good time, Paul?
No, that means you were having a good time. You know why? Because otherwise you wouldn't have cared if your plants went away.
Maybe.
But like you were in it and you were feeling it, and the stakes, like those plants meant something to you.
Like it was, I was about to what made it worse was like I went first. So I could have just made my forest and then hit Matt. Chose not to do that.
That's the thing.
I chose not to do that.
When you start to frame yourself as like someone who
took
the high road in gaming, that's also often especially in our group. Let's be honest, in our group, that's when it kind of is like
stings a little bit.
Yeah. Like I currently, I guess let's just air all our grievances of our online. No, I'm currently playing a game of 1830 with Matt.
Oh, sure.
And someone from our Discord, and actually two people from our Discord. I'm so sorry.
Oh, by the way, to that effect, Matt goes, I don't know why we play anything other than 1830. Like 18, like
that's what he's saying right now.
Yeah, like 1830 is the best 18XX. There's no other reason to play any.
Well, it is a classic, and what's been interesting about this playthrough is that there's someone who, one of the two people from our Discord, he's very, very, very experienced with this. Like he knows, like he is playing on a level that I don't play on. Sure. So what's happening is that he's saying like, oh, if you do this, then Matt can buy this train, and then so-and-so can buy this, and you can open up that, then sell that, and then that allows this to open, and then that way that tile will be available. It's like boom, 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 boom. Like he knows
Matrix,
like steps and steps and steps. And he's like, well, this game happens to be like one of the most studied 18xx's, which is why. That's I think it's amazing to see the layers of strategy that someone can think about the game at. And it's funny because I would love to get to that place, but I want to do it like I'm not the sort of person that wants to study a game, etc. Sure. Anyway, the point of this is that
the laundry.
What happened was I was going to do my own thing and start my own companies, and then I didn't, because there's someone who's very new, and Matt's pretty new to it too, and so it sort of was like a tutorial session, sure. And I was like, that's fine, okay, I won't bid on that private, I'll bid on this one. So I get stuck with a PRR, which is one of the companies, and I'm like, okay, and I'm just sort of like just doing my moves, but I'm also like traveling, so I'm not really paying that much attention. I'm just sort of like doing the best that I can, and I buy a 2 train because we're in the phase 2,
sure.
And I looked today and I was like, I have no trains.
Oh, it rusted? They got to 4 already?
I never even got to play in the 3s. I never had access to the 3 trains.
Oh, wow.
And I wasn't mad. I actually thought it was very funny. But there was a part of me that was, there was a part of me that was like, I was like, it was weird. I'm not feeling competitive about this game, but there was a part of me that was like, I entered in an auction on a company I didn't even want. And now you all have rusted my trains. But actually, it wasn't mad. It was just one of those things where you're like, I am a saint here.
That's
and
right.
This is what it's like we become mothers. Like I do everything for you, and this is how you repay me.
No. I'm curious if Matt can listen to this, and like I would confront him and just say like, dude, why'd you do that? I just said like, not cool. That's all I said, which is fine. But like if I were to express what I really felt, his response would be, well, you should have made gamed harder.
By the way, I'm really excited that Matt is saying things like 1830 is the only game that should be played, because that just means that hopefully his 18xx window is opened up again and we can get a whole bunch of 18xx plays.
He's going to be traveling soon, my friend.
That's true.
So,
speaking of 18xx, I think the last game that I want to really mention for me personally, because I haven't played much, is that I did play an online game of City of the Big Shoulders, which I think I mentioned last week.
Sure. Yeah.
And I haven't been playing City of the Big Shoulders since I got into 18xx. And I mentioned last week that it's just so much fun to play it again. And it really is a super fun game. It's more than just a quasi 18xx simulator. Sure. There's like a lot of really fun decisions. And I'm playing against 3 people. Maybe one of them's on our Discord. I don't remember. When I signed up, it was like, I don't know. I don't remember. I don't know what. I think maybe I was drunk when I signed up. So if it is someone from our Discord, I apologize for acting like I don't know who you are. But I just haven't done the research to see who I'm playing with. But I'm basically playing with strangers.
Great. and someone from our Discord.
Or perhaps someone that I talk with all the time on our Discord. But
Ben's very hungry, everyone. So I apologize.
I'm very hungry. But there's this one guy who... They're yellow. That's all I know. It's like their color is yellow. I'm blue. They're yellow.
You're selling it, Ben.
I'm blue. They're yellow. We have a green player and maybe a red player, but I don't remember. But the yellow player does the whole thing where he buys my stock and then dumps it and lowers my value, and this is like, I was like, okay, this person really knows what they're doing, because they just had like. Their value was just going up and up and up, and it's like 800 ahead of me. I was like, oh, they're just cruising to the end. But I have to say, here's why I really like City of the Big Shoulders. At the end of the day, I lost, but by only $37, which, by the way, that's pretty cool.
Cool.
that was really cool. And at one point we were $1 away, and I was like, oh, if he hadn't dropped my stock price, I probably could have won. But City of Big Shoulders, I think people should revisit it. It's really fun, really fun, really exciting. It's a good time,
Yeah, no, you can play it online, right?
Yeah, I could play it online. It's weird because I don't play too much on Board Game Arena, because I do find that ultimately I like to play with people I know. So I don't often just like go and try to play with strangers. Mm-hmm. But I think I may have to start doing that more in order to get these plays. I tried to start up a game of Sky Mines and no one wanted to play with me. I was so sad.
No, they probably knew.
I know.
That you probably
they probably knew that if they played with me, I would probably roast them on this podcast for aggressing me. They're like, I don't want to make a wrong move because then Ben will complain on the podcast.
Or he's looking too thirsty with his Sky Mines.
I wanted to talk about something though. Okay, something that's been on my mind.
Like this is a laundry episode, everyone. So
I've always wanted to do an etiquette episode on Game Brain.
Sure.
It's we've done it before, but I just wasn't part of them. And I've always wanted to do one. And recently, I don't know. Recently, I had a moment where I was like, I feel like I've got to say something, and I wrote a whole thing, a screed on Board Game Geek.
Yes, legendary
about finger etiquette. I think finger etiquette with board games is an issue. And I feel like it's time that we said some hard truths.
Okay, everyone.
About like the fingers, what we do with them, where we put them, what we put on them, and how they touch our game pieces.
Okay. Remember, everyone, on this episode, we're talking about generational trauma and how sometimes it comes across on our board game.
Listen, I would have been happy continuing on this path of feeling wronged, but like I can only do so many Game Brain episodes where I complain about being wronged on this show. Yeah, I literally do it like once a month. I have an episode where I complain about direct aggression or being wronged, and I feel like I need to.
That's how we stop the trauma.
Well, we're just going to move to like being wronged, but in petty ways.
Okay.
Petty grievances. So like, I don't know if this bothers you in the same way, because you are a consumer of games, but you don't often buy them.
Yep.
But even then, I don't know if this is like a post-pandemic thing or whatever, but I'm really grossed out by what people do with their fingers and how they touch games. Like, it really bothers me. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if I'm being unreasonable or if this is something that a lot of other people feel. And it's like, no, everyone's afraid to say it because they don't want to be mean to people.
Sure. No.
But like, I see people, they like pick their nose and then they pick up a card and then
not necessarily in our group, everyone. This is just
not necessarily, but I've seen, people do things across the
spectrum
gamut,
of which you've seen exactly.
But like things like that, like, do you ever notice people doing things like that that are maybe unhygienic and then touching game pieces that like we're all touching, etc.? And does that ever bother you?
So here is an example of that's not game related, but I think is literally in your finger. So one day, some friends and I, we went to Milk Jar, which is a cookie place.
Okay.
And we got some cookies and we got a glass of milk. And so to dunk your cookies, right? Mm-hmm. And so, like we take our cookie. I don't need that much milk to just dunk my cookie. So we share this dunking milk. And
sure, dunking milk.
And there's one friend of mine, she takes her cookie and dips it, but she goes like third knuckle down into the milk.
So I don't like that.
And then we're like, what the hell are you doing? And she does not realize that she's done it. It's just how she
doesn't realize that she goes all the way in when she dunks.
And so in her, when she's growing up, like it might not have been third knuckle. It may be
to have any finger in the milk. Yes, that's weird.
You're like any knuckle,
just practicality. Like now you have wet fingers.
Any knuckle is wrong. Any finger in milk is wrong, especially if you're sharing it.
Especially because it's already like a shared dunk is already a bit. But like I think sometimes with like food, if you're cooking food with a friend, like you taste like I'll have like
or if the milk is a dip and you're not double dipping, like you share dip all the time with people, right?
Right, and even and honestly, there are times when like in a circle of friends, like there can be like a moment where someone says, "I'm just going to double dip," and you're like, I don't know, for some reason, like the act of like with communal eating, there are infractions that I usually can look the other way for, and it doesn't bother me. But like something like that, there's something about wetness, liquid, and like fingers like, going into
and dirt under fingernails. That's what it comes down to. Like you're like, oh, this is
just fingers in the milk.
So when I called her out because one must, she was like, oh crap. And we just gave her we just piled on and gave her so much crap for the rest of the evening. And I still do that today when we hang out. Like if there's an opportunity to talk about fingers and milk, it's But I do think that for just like her, sometimes people are blind to the things that that they do.
And I think that for me, what's frustrating is that like I try very hard to ride that line between like advocating for myself and what I would like for people to handle, especially the games that I own, because they cost money and you don't want people. It's a combination of like with this etiquette stuff. It's a combination of both unhygienic practices and also just destructive practices. Sure. And destructive sounds very dramatic, but it's like people have not Frito, but Cheetos stuff on their fingers and they touch a card. That's destructive because that could compromise the secrecy of something. And so like these games, they go out of print. Once they're out of print, it's just like there's expenses and it's just, so you want to like advocate for like, hey, this is my property. Can you please treat it respectfully? But you also like, I also don't want to create an awkwardness in the game vibe, because game night is a lot of it's about vibe and fun. You don't want to be like someone who's overbearing. You don't want to be like a Nazi. You want people to want to play with you and want to come and play, but you want to also be like, stop that. But like what's so funny with etiquette, when you talk about etiquette, is that it's the people who are doing the etiquette infractions are in some senses being the rudest. Whether they're meaning it, that's sort of like the harshest word. I'm not trying to be harsh, but they're the ones who are doing something that is a broach of etiquette.
Yeah.
And then, so really, as they are the ones who are doing the infractions, like we, the ones who are great people, morally.
Non-finger in the milk dunkers.
Like we are the ones who should be most offended. And yet it seems like a lot of times when you call out etiquette infractions, they're the ones who are most offended. It's almost like it's worse to call it out. It's because it's more ungracious. It's like a bigger offense to be... to make someone feel uncomfortable than it is than to actually like ruin someone's stuff or be unhygienic.
Like, and this is where it comes down to feelings again, back to full circle. Like, I think a solution that used to work was light shaming.
Casual to light shaming.
Yeah, like casual to light shaming. Like, where you would say something and you would shame that person, and like the cookie thing. The cookie dunking, we shamed. She will not do that again.
Right, that's great.
And
you're also direct with her, and you were also and your tone was lighthearted, so she knew it was not. You weren't condemning her as a person.
It's action. It's about action. So I think what's happened is, in an attempt to spare people's feelings, like we avoid light shaming where they're Like I'm not a high shame person, and I try not to use that in my interactions with people. However, like there was one time I was driving rush hour, and I don't know if I've ever told the story on anyway, if I did, I apologize. But someone was making a left turn from the middle lane. And in rush hour traffic.
That's a high shame situation. I'm sorry.
And I was like going, what the hell's happening? And I go like, oh, I'm supposed to honk right now.
Yeah.
And I'm going to honk right now, and it's not going to impact the person at all. They're just going to stay there and do what they're going to do because they're being a jerk about it.
It might impact them.
But I will say, if I don't do this, I'm being complicit in saying that this is okay. I have to, for everyone else, I have to say, this is not okay. You will be called out for doing this.
Yes, and because the thing is, if you don't honk in that moment,
exactly,
they may think like, "Ooh, God, I really messed up." Okay, anyway, I moved on. They won't say to themselves, "Oh my God, this was like so awkward and mortifying." You know, there's a chance you might elicit that, and you might be able to associate societal pressure with doing the wrong thing, or you might just generate like a totally diffident response from them where they say, "Fuck you!" Like, I'm doing whatever I want. I'm American.
But I'm actually just talking about like, imagine. I'm going to use random examples. Let's say Elder is double dipping, you know, the milk. Okay, if I don't say something to Elder loudly so everyone can say, maybe Trey goes, "Oh, this is okay," or
exactly.
So there's this kind of like enforcement of like creating the quote unquote culture that you want.
Yeah.
And so this is where the removal of light shaming. First of all, I'm not a light shaming advocate. I'm just saying there are uses. More
like, well, the thing is this. Actually, the fact that even using the word shame sort of does imply that we are like looking down on the person as it is, and there needs to be like a mindset of like, hey, I'm giving you a note right now. Like this has nothing to do with how I feel about you as a person. I love you as a person, which is why I'm gaming with you. But you should know that you shouldn't be doing this.
And with that, I feel like the way it's easier for a friend group is if you can wrap it in humor.
Yeah.
That's so the behavior is highlighted, you know, vibrantly enough that you should remember this. Mm-hmm. And then everyone will go like, "Oh, I will not." No one in that group for the rest of their lives will dunk shared milk to the third knuckle. Yeah, I'm serious. Like it was really funny. It was, you know, it's memorable, and the person was appropriately mortified. And I will never do that. Like, you know, if I didn't do that, if I didn't create that moment, I might have like gone the what's your group called? The
Hippocrat Party, which, by the way, I'm sure because I'm going to go through what I feel like are really big finger infractions. Sure. And I will say, like, I am sure that I have committed these infractions because some of these things happen so without our awareness.
Sure, exactly.
You know, especially as we are engrossed in a game. Sure. Like, I'm sure that I've done this, but if I have the ability to monitor myself, there's certain things that are like unforced errors that we like you can just stop yourself from doing. You can see it coming and you can stop yourself, and that's what I really am going to try to like address. But like, it's hard. It's hard because for me, because it's weird. There's some people I could call. Like, I feel like I could call you out if you're doing something. I'd be like, "Paul, could you not do that?" or whatever. Absolutely. Because I think because you have that mentality of like, you have to address something right there at that moment. I know that therefore I can do it to you as well. And I can maybe even say respect. But there's some people who you feel like if you do it to, they're going to resent you. Yeah, and I think they're probably people who are more sensitive about being called out in public, right? That's fine. That's like whatever led you in your life to that moment in time. You know, like we are all built differently and we all respond to these things differently. But that's where it's like hard. And it's like, you don't want to pull someone to the side and be like, by the way, or whatever. It's hard. So that's why I feel like it's also good to do these etiquette things, because that way no one has to be directly called out at a game night and embarrassed. But now like people can hopefully hear this and think, oh yeah, like this is something that like I do. And I didn't even think about how it could actually be making the host of this game night feel incredibly uncomfortable.
Yeah, no, it like, I'm a person I try to be forthright. Yeah. I try to be forthright when I believe the person can handle the forthrightness. Yeah. And when I can't do that, I'll try to an indirect way. And if I can't do that, I character assassinate. That's the three, forthright, you know, like roundabout way, assassination. That's the way people do it. Like, I'll say it out loud, but everyone does this. Everyone does this.
It's kind of true. Because, by the way, the thing is this, is like, if you are like a frequent violator of generally like well well-known etiquette practices. If you violate etiquette frequently, you have to just accept the fact that people are going to start talking shit about you behind your back.
And then you're going to have a
that's
reputation.
just how it is. And then you have a reputation. And you know what? I always talk about this with muscle cars. I hate muscle cars.
Okay. Good to
I don't
know.
care. I don't care if other people like them. That's fine. Everyone can choose. But I personally hate them. I think they're like loud and annoying. And I think that like really, this is what I always say. I've said this a million times on Watch What Crappens. If you drive a muscle car, you're an asshole. And if you're not an asshole, you have to be comfortable with the fact that
driving a muscle car makes you look like an
makes
asshole.
you look like an asshole.
Sure.
Because I can't tell you, you go on the 170 up there, you go into the valley in 170, and it's just like fast and the like furious. And it's just muscle cars just driving. That's where that generational trauma comes from right there. It's like it's not through board gaming, it's through like hitting that car, like hitting the gas pedal and having a loud car, and just like I'm like, oh God, it's the worst. And I know many nice people and wonderful people who have muscle cars. And I'm like, you're a great person, but just know
people are
going to see you as an asshole. I'm sorry. Muscle car drivers do not like to hear that. But I would say that the majority of non-muscle car drivers that are on the road think that people who drive muscle cars are assholes.
There you go.
That is my hot take.
Character assassination.
So like if you violate etiquette.
Yeah. No, here.
Which is what muscle cars are doing.
Sure. Noise pollution.
No, loud, aggressive driving, you know. I mean, it's like a joy when you see like a Mustang going at like a normal speed.
Well, you know, if you're two side notes. If you're a muscle car and you're having the look at me, you know what people are going to do? They're going to look at you. They're not going. They might not think the way.
And I know I know that the purpose of driving like that and having a loud car is about something pretty deep, and it's about something that it's not just about like, oh, they're an asshole. I know that there's shit that it goes into that. There's like societal shit.
Well, yeah, generational trauma, everyone.
Generational trauma.
With
but
Paul
that being said, you're still being an asshole.
Yeah,
you know.
Side note, this is just back to character assassination.
Yes.
So it goes character assassination, and then what happens is you get a reputation that you don't know about.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, when people are comfortable enough with that reputation, they'll say it to your face, and you go, "I'm not that person." But there's this whole bunch of like dialogue and like,
or you stop being invited to game night.
So
that's actually so that's the other thing is that's actually I think why it's important to pay attention to etiquette, because a lot of times if you go on to BGG, a lot of times if you talk about some experience that you had, it doesn't have to do with etiquette even. It could be like, I was playing and this person just like cut me off from whatever. And a lot of times people say, well, my first piece of advice is stop playing with people like that. If you play with someone who cheats, people will always say, well, just don't play with those people. So what eventually happens is that like no one wants to make someone feel bad, but then what happens is that rather than deal with the situation, they just stop getting invited.
Yeah, it's the simplest thing. Avoidance is the simplest of conflict resolution.
Yeah, because also like a game is a social thing, and if people are not, if not everyone is partaking in the social pact of participating and what it requires to participate in a game, why would you keep inviting someone who is not doing that?
100%. Like, a lot of people in a lot of things, like, just want to do stuff with people they like.
Yeah.
That's the secret of life, everyone. People want to do stuff with people they like. So if you do things that make you unlikable, whether you know it or not, that's going to impact your life.
Yeah. I think where the calling out, etc., becomes really hard is with people who are like maybe newer to the hobby, or people who you're trying to bring in. Mm-hmm. And so you're trying to make this like a welcoming thing because you know that they could get the bug and they are so fun and you know they can have great table presence. But like you don't want to have their experience when they're sort of still in this tentative place of are they going to like dive into the hobby. You don't want to associate it with like lots of like, like, oh, don't bend the cards, don't touch that, don't do that. Like you want it to be like a fun experience. Well, and
I have a solution for that too.
Yeah, I would love to hear it.
So one of the things that happens is like when you call someone the wrong name, when you've just met them, where you're like, this person's name is Jonathan, not John. So you say like, oh, hey, John, and then someone else goes, yeah, Jonathan,
Right.
paints murals or whatever. Like, you just model good behavior or something. Like,
Yeah.
And so once again, I go back to light shaming. I apologize. You could light shame a person who could take it. So the other person goes, oh, I'm not supposed to bend these cards.
Yeah.
If say you bring in a new person to the game and you want them to play, but they're doing these things that are annoying you, you literally bend could go, Paul, can you'll text me, Paul, can you bend my cards so I can shame you?
So I could back and I could say, Paul, please don't bend the cards.
Something like that.
But the thing is that you'd be surprised at how many times people don't pick up that they are guilty of doing something.
Exactly. And that's why what you have to do is shame me hard, like shame hard, like die hard, but shame hard, but in a funny way, such that like, okay, fine, Ben, I'm like, and then
I have found that, like, I was going to talk about like my methods of like fixing these things towards the end, but I'm going to talk about it now. Like, one thing is to establish like very big, bold parameters at the beginning, where I will say, hey, everyone, I did this with Iki a lot. When I first got Iki, it was such a rare game. And I would say, hey, everyone, no eating or drinking at this table. It's just that this is a rare game, and I just don't want like these. It's just I don't want anything to get ruined. So sorry, I'll sort of throw myself on a sword. I'll be like, sorry, I'm gonna be a real Nazi tonight. Like, this is just the way it is. I know, I know it seems excessive, but like, just please indulge my craziness. Please indulge my anal retentiveness in this moment, not craziness. And I feel like that's good because it takes it off of them.
Yep. They're doing the mitzvah.
Yeah, because by the way, as much as I'm sitting here, I don't want my guests to feel uncomfortable. I don't want them to feel upset.
And yet I'm still here.
And yet you're still here. So sometimes I'll take it on that way.
Yeah, that's good. I think that's good.
And obviously you can sleeve your games, but like you can only. I'm not going to sleeve every single game.
100%.
Yeah. So I think that's the best way is you just establish straight up, like, no, please don't do this. Like bending the cards, that's tricky. I think in the past when I've seen someone bending a card, I will usually say something like, hey, I'm so sorry. This is just like my OCD, but like, could you please stop bending that card? Because it's literally killing my soul right now. You can't bend cards. And usually like, if you sort of like, again,
take it on
frame
you.
it like, this is me, I'm a neurotic, mess right now.
That's right. You just go into your people pleasing mode.
It's usually helpful.
Yeah, it can be. If you could carry the awkwardness.
Right.
Then you save the other person from carrying that. As long as they are receptive and really cognizant of wanting to do the right thing, because there are some people who, for all of it, are just in their own heads.
They're not paying attention,
and so that's when you have to shift to like medium shame, which can be done as well. But it's all doable. Like you have other techniques, do you not?
I don't actually. That may just be. Let me see. I'm looking.
Primary technique.
Wait, no. I said. Well, I think in terms of food, in terms of issues with food, I make sure the food in my setup. I have a table. I have a kitchen island. The food is by the kitchen island, and sometimes people will put out food on the table. If the food is like not going to be too much of an issue, then I let it stay. But sometimes I just make sure the food is in a separate space. My friend Larry, by the way, he has a nice board game table, and it has like a whole sort of like velvet, inside. And the moment he got that table, he established immediately, and he's very good at establishing like his boundaries. He was like, no one better spill a single thing on this table. And that's now, we're coming up on like probably 8 years of that table, but it's like, all food and drink has got to stay far away from this table.
Well, like when I play at your place, I never bring food or drink at the table. I always keep it on the island.
You do.
And when I walk over, if I'm thirsty, I just get up,
I don't. I'm chill about beverages.
Why? Because that's a lot of damage.
It is. Because I think that people tend to be cognizant of beverages.
I see.
So if there's a spill, that sucks, but spills are usually not intentional. It's the stuff I'm talking about more is the stuff that people don't realize that they're doing.
Sure. No.
So let me talk about my infractions.
Yeah,
this is the list that I put up on BGG, but I want it this way we can dig into it. This is a numerical list, but it's not in order of anything.
Sure,
it's just
not in order of importance.
It was the number when they came to me. So I said the first thing was obviously powdery coatings. So don't bring powdery coatings. This goes for people, I say, who are either hosting a game night. If you're hosting a game night and and someone's bringing a game, don't put out powdery snacks. Sure. And if you are coming to a game night, don't bring powdery snacks.
Sure.
I'm talking about like Cheetos. That's like the number one culprit, right?
Sure.
Like
or
Doritos, powdered donuts, cool ranch Doritos, anything that leaves like a residue. Wasabi peas. Wasabi peas people don't often think of.
Interesting.
Wasabi peas are like, you don't think of them as being powdery, but what happens is, as your fingers just get, they start to devolve and you get wasabi peas on you. Like, it's been said on every podcast. It's been said everywhere, the Cheetos thing, but people they mess it up.
No.
Don't bring the Cheetos.
Sure.
Don't bring the Doritos. They're delicious. Cheetos, one of my favorite. Cheese Doodles, Pirate's Booty. I love them all. Not for game night.
Anything that can be described as dusted. Yeah.
And especially because one downside about that is that if you're going to have them in a separate zone and be like really good about setting it, like about rinsing your fingers under a faucet. Because another downside to those powdery things is not just that they are destructive, but a lot of times in an attempt to be somewhat like clean,
hygienic, people
will lick their fingers.
Yeah.
They'll be like, oh, there's residue. Let me just lick my fingers and wipe them on my pants or something.
Sure.
It's like, that's a little bit of a lateral move for me.
Okay. It's not better.
It's not better. So we're going to say this, if for nothing else, no powdery snacks.
Okay.
Right. I think that's an easy one to avoid. I think
fair.
Most people know about that. Yep. Chocolate. Okay, so now move on to chocolate. I'm a chocoholic. I love chocolate. But chocolate you have to be careful with the board game, right? Sure. It melts. It gets everywhere. If you're going to do a chocolate, it can be like an M&M. It could be an M&M. It could be like a chocolate covered almond or something like that, right?
Or a one bite Hershey Kiss where you don't touch the chocolate.
Right. If you're a lot of times actually there are peanut butter cups.
Yep, chocolate peanut butter cups,
which I love. Like every time those show up at game night, I love it. But like you have to like if you're gonna have chocolate peanut butter cups, like do it carefully, right?
The way I describe it is like I'm not peanut butter, but like Trader Joe's peanut butter cups are a big popular thing in our group. Like the way I say it, like. Make sure that the time in your hand is minimized.
Yes.
So basically, from container to hand to mouth should be under 2 seconds.
Yes.
Anything?
Yes. So okay. By the way, let's dive into this a little bit more, which is that I think the Trader Joe ones are really small, right? They're like button size.
Yeah.
So only take a few at a time because if you have too many,
you have to hold them. Yep.
Only take what you can keep in your fingers for max 2 seconds.
That's right.
Okay. And then keep on monitoring those fingers. Like just keep on monitoring. Okay. If there are peanut butter cups that have wrappers or a little bit larger, then what you do is you peel a little bit of the side of the wrapper, right? And then you kind of pop it in your mouth. So you can actually theoretically do the whole thing with minimal touching, almost no touching of a peanut butter cup.
So just remember, chocolate melts.
Chocolate melts. And the thing is that what's good about chocolate melting is that most people don't like melty chocolate on their fingers. So people are generally good about getting it off their fingers. But with chocolate, my experience as a seasoned chocoholic is that like the insidious part about chocolate is that it gets onto a random part. Like a little fleck falls off and winds up on the side of your hand.
Oh, and you smear.
And then you're smearing. And like, by the way, this is also a good note for your
life.
Clothes.
Just life. Just like
okay, I'm saving you from a chocolate stain right
That's
now.
right. Yeah, like, and remember, if you get bad reputation, people talk about you, and you don't know why.
People talk. Okay, most people are pretty good with chocolate, I have to say.
Okay,
but I feel like you have to. It has to be stated.
Acknowledge it at least.
Let's like cross every T and dot every I for the people who might tune in and say, "Oh,
but chocolate's okay." No,
chocolate is like you have to just know the chocolate you're working with.
Oh, very good.
Some chocolate is hard, and you'll be totally fine. Mm-hmm. Okay, but like again, if you're eating chocolate, probably a different zone, and just monitor those fingers. And don't lick your fingers if they get chocolatey.
Yep.
Don't lick your fingers for any situation.
Have napkins.
Okay. Donuts. We have to talk about donuts.
Oh, you know what, Ben? We do.
Okay. Let's talk about donuts. So every now and then we do a game day that starts at like 10 a.m., right? And so usually someone brings donuts. I've brought the donuts. I brought donuts to Matt's before. Someone always brings donuts because it's the gracious, kind thing. It's what a good person would do, is bring donuts, and it shows that you're giving something to the group. You are honoring and celebrating the specialness of being able to game at 10 in the morning. It's a wonderful, wonderful gesture. However, if you're eating a donut, be mindful.
That's right.
Okay, glazed donuts are delicious, but guess what? You're getting sticky ass sugar on your fingers, and it gets right onto the pieces. Like I've seen it happen so many times.
Sure.
I've experienced this.
And prone to the leakage too.
Prone to leakage. And then on top of that, just as like a side thing, people think like, oh, the powdered donut's where the danger is. But people don't realize the freaking glazed donut. I can't tell you how many times people eat those donuts and then they start talking, and then the glaze flakes, everywhere.
The aerosol.
It's like everywhere. And even if you don't talk, just biting into them, they're gonna flake everywhere. So there's like sugary stuff everywhere.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna have a donut, again, separate zone.
At the island.
Yeah, I mean, and it goes without saying, jelly donuts, frosted donuts, big dangers. Those are not.
Just don't bring it. Everyone.
Those are not even near that.
People don't bring them.
So my whole thing is I just don't bring donuts anymore.
Yeah, no. I understand. I understand.
I think like a croissant. So a croissant, I think I'm okay with, because croissants are flaky, but they're not,
and they're cultured.
And they're very cultured. They really elevate the day. Croissants are flaky, but I find for some reason, like with croissants, I feel like a lot of people eat croissants over a little plate. I feel like, have you ever noticed, like, there are certain things that people will eat with a plate and certain things people just eat with a napkin? And I feel like donuts, people don't eat with a plate generally. They just sort of stuff them in their mouths.
Sure.
But like a croissant or a piece of cake, people will put on a plate. And so they're actually like...
More contained.
Okay.
I'm not learning more about you, but the things I know about you are so much more saturated.
I'm basically what I'm doing right now is I'm giving Game Brain listeners a chance to decide whether or not they ever want to listen to my voice again.
That's right. There you go. This is good.
They're like, we liked Ben, but turns out he's just an asshole.
Like, he's a muscle car of a person.
He is terrible. I mean, obviously, croissant flakes. There's butter. There could be a chance for some grease. I just feel like if they're just not. You know what it is? It's like there's certain things that when they flake, everyone sees the mess that they're making. It's also visual. You can see those crumbs.
Yeah.
But with like a glaze,
you might not
sugar glaze, you don't see it and you don't think of it.
Well, one last question. Were you or were you not the president of your French club?
I was. I was.
I see.
Yeah.
So there might be
I have some bias.
I'm just making some assertions here.
Listen, I'm just saying. Maybe I do have a bias. Maybe this is my blind spot. I don't know. But if you are doing some light shaming on me,
that's right.
Noted. My behavior will be modified. So you're saying you'd be anti-croissant?
I think croissant is donut to me. Okay. For me,
I'm open to that. By the way, I'm open to that because if my croissant eating is causing stress for someone else, I don't want that. Do you think there is a breakfast? What would you bring to a morning gaming session that would be?
I would bring a jelly donut, but here's the thing. I would eat it at the island. I never
I think whatever it is has to be eaten at the island, or there has to be a little plate. But I think really at the kitchen, at the zone B, the food zone.
Like ultimately, the only time I'll ever bring food at the table that isn't already there by someone else, like if someone brings gummy bears or like the chocolate, like it's already there. I may but I will never bring food to the plate.
Yeah.
Unless it's on a plate and you eat it with a fork.
Yep. Yeah. Like oddly enough, like poke is actually really good because it's in a bowl and you can sort of eat it away from the table. It's kind of contained. Although one thing I have noticed with poke, and I've been guilty of this, is that if you get poke that has like, or a salad, even if it's not poke, the salad, leaves can sometimes act like little trebuchets, and they will set, like, you go stabbing in, you go in with your fork or your chopsticks to get something, and then like a leaf comes out and it's like, and it like throws, like with poke, it'll throw like a little like piece of like Tobacco or something, like, and it like lands on the board, but that's okay. Like it's so isolated.
Oh, trebuchet, that sounds French.
It is very French. And by the way, let's have a disclaimer, which is that like accidents happen.
Yep.
And like you can never have a pristine environment. Like, so this is like everything I'm saying is with the awareness that like we're not going to be playing this in like a lab setting. Like, this
hermetically sealed.
Hermetically sealed. Yeah. We know this. Just like there's certain things like if you're having donuts, eat them away from the game.
This is all about consideration.
Exactly.
Got it.
Grease and oil.
That's tough. Like, you have like I guess like wontons, fried chicken.
It's so funny. Like a few weeks ago, Jordan had ordered Popeyes and was eating it near a game. The thing is, Jordan, I think, is extremely considerate. I think one of his defining qualities is he's actually an extremely considerate person, and he's a murderer. But he's also like, I think he's very considerate about games, and so he was extremely careful about wiping his fingers all the time. But he said to me, he's like, gosh, I probably shouldn't have done that just because it probably made like whoever's game it was tense. Be a little tense.
No.
Which, by the way, even just him considering the host feelings is, I think, like, like sometimes that's all you want, But
a mensch.
He's a mensch, a murdering mensch.
Murdering mensch. That's a
murder mensch.
Murder mensch. That's right.
So things with oils. So by the way, olives.
Oh, people eat olives?
I am traumatized by an experience I had. I had just bought Secret Hitler. I didn't even buy it. Someone gave me a Secret Hitler, and this was 2015 or so.
Sure.
It had just come out. I played it a few times. I was like, I love the game so much that I brought it with me on a trip, and a bunch of us went to a coffee shop and we're like, let's play this game. And so someone in our group, she had bought a little salad, like a Greek salad or something. Sure. And there were olives in the salad, and she was actually picking out the olives, and she was just eating the olives like independently. Mm-hmm. And, but then what happened was she was picking up the tiles, and the oil from the olives, discolored in very slight ways, the Secret Hitler secret information tiles. And I was like, oh! And that's the thing with oil, is that like, it gets on. And even if you think you are clean, like literally a single drop can have a massive effect.
Sure. No.
So don't bring oily foods as a snack.
Sure. No.
Don't eat them near the game pieces.
Got it.
Which, by the way, donuts cross over into the oily area sometimes too, by the way.
I hear you.
Or even a croissant.
Yeah, especially a croissant.
Especially a croissant. I'm trying to think of other oily things that are really bad. I just think that like olives, sometimes people may think of olives as like a healthy snack.
Sure.
And it's like
so one of the things that I make fun of all the time is when I watch TV and or even a movie, but it's mostly on TV, when some character is going to buy a hot dog. And you're like, and you go like, okay. Oh, why are you being so crazy? Because if you ever notice, most people eating a hot dog on TV don't put any condiments on it.
I actually don't often put condiments on my hot dog.
Are you a crazy person?
I just like to think I'm on TV.
Because I go like, who the hell eats a hot dog with zero condiments?
Often me.
What?
Often me.
That is crazy to me. And yesterday, I was at this sandwich place, and it's known for it's I forgot what it's called, in Culver City. And I was eating my sandwich, and then these two men rode their mountain bikes in. One was sitting outside. The other one comes in and orders for both of them. And they ordered a roast beef sandwich, but one of them for the guy outside, only bread and only meat.
Wow.
And I was going like, you're at a fancy pants, sandwich shop. You really just do that? And I have to remember, people like different things.
People like different things.
But if you were to bring olives to a game night, it's not even my games. I would think you're a crazy person.
Well, no, I mean, olives, it might seem strange, but what might happen is someone might put out a nice cheese board.
Who the hell brings them a cheese?
People do, because not everyone is like Game Brain. Not everyone is like a bunch of slobs like we are.
Whoa. Light
there are
shame.
people, what will happen is, this sort of goes back to what I was saying before. Like, sometimes I might say to someone, I'll talk about board gaming, and someone will say, oh my goodness, I've been playing like Catan or Ticket to Ride. I would love to know more. Like, okay, how about this? I'll bring a game over. Like, or they'll say, I'd love to host a game night.
Sure.
So you bring your game over, and so they put out a nice spread.
Like wontons and olives.
Maybe not wontons, but they might put out cheese and olives and little nuts and whatever. And by the way, honey roasted nuts, that's powdery. Dusted.
Yep.
Okay. So your Planters honey roasted nuts, that's on the list.
That's
okay.
right.
Bad. But they might put out a nice spread.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying, with us,
be cognizant of oil.
Be cognizant.
Yeah.
What I'm saying when I said a bunch of slobs, because we gather for a game night. We eat some snacks or whatever. We show up in like our t-shirts or whatever. We're there for the game. But other people actually try to create
a vibe,
a nice environment. Yeah. People actually like to entertain like adults.
We're classier ones. So if you're listening to this, you're listening to the classiest podcast that you're listening to.
We went to a Michelin star restaurant recently.
That's right. Trebuchet, French, croissant, French.
Are we ready for the next shot to be fired?
Yeah,
Are people still listening? Do people still respect my opinion?
Hello.
Is it too late? Are they going to be heavy shaming me?
That's right.
Okay, fruits and berries.
Fruits and berries. Okay, to be fair, this is very, very much Ben's culinary trauma. So, yes, he's going to have some valid points, but understand this is very Ben specific.
I want to create a disclaimer. I am a strange person. I really hate berries, and I know this is what happens. Every time I say this, everyone goes, strawberries? Yes. Blueberries? Yes. Raspberries? Yes. Blackberries? Yes. I do like cranberries. And there's some other sort of more obscure berries I'm okay with, but for the big ones, your big name berries, I really hate them.
Yeah,
I hate them. But that being said, so whenever anyone brings berries to the table, I'm repulsed. In fact, I have banned berries. Some friends have brought berries to my house before for a game night, and it's it's tough for me to even be around berries.
Sure.
But there's also a functional thing. I don't think you should have berries around board games.
Sure.
Because they are wet.
Yep.
They often have to be, in fact, washed beforehand. But they're wet. They're juicy, which means that when you eat them, juice can come squirting out.
Yeah.
Like you see the little spatter.
Yeah.
That gets on your fingers, but it also spatters outwards. And in some cases, they can stain.
Yeah.
So they can not only be juicy, but they stain. Blueberries are probably the worst berry to have.
Sure.
Or maybe raspberries.
Blackberries.
I think that but blueberries, blueberries I think are juicier than blackberries, right?
We can do a test. We can bring berries to your house.
You can report back.
That's right.
I think so. The point is this: just put them in the zone.
That's right.
Put them in the food zone.
The food zone, the berry zone in Ben's house is your car.
Just put them with the donuts, put them with the croissants,
sure.
Put the cheese board with the olives. It's fine. Put them in the zone, but just know when you come back to the table, wipe your hands, run them under the faucet, do something basic.
I'm really tempted to just eat a raw sweet onion at the game.
Things like apples, like apple wedges, not a problem. I think even biting into an apple, you might get some spatter, but which I don't love, but I think citrus could be risky actually. If you have some orange wedges, that stuff can shoot across the table.
Yeah. No, I hear.
So I think just all the juicy stuff,
and and citrus has oils.
Yeah, Elder sometimes will bring like a carton of pineapple. That's I think okay.
Because fork,
and it's over a carton.
Yep.
So I'm okay with something like that.
Sure.
Here's something that I feel like people do not talk about. I'm having the best time. This is like my favorite, like going down a list of etiquette issues.
Late night at with Grain Brain, the etiquette.
Okay. I don't know how else to say it except say itsy bitsy snacky things. People don't realize this. Like if you have a bag of chips, at the bottom of the bag of the chips,
gotcha.
You got itsy bitsy snacky things.
Yep.
If you have a little thing of peanuts or sunflower seeds or pepitas, it's itsy bitsy snacky things. So you think, what's wrong with itsy bitsy snacky things?
Ben, what's wrong with itsy bitsy?
Oh, well, what do you think is wrong with them?
I think they get everywhere, and they probably have oils on them. That's how I consider that.
Fair, but here's what I think is really what's vile.
Not this vile.
When people eat itsy bitsy snacky things, they go in usually with a 3-finger, like usually index, middle, and thumb.
Sure.
They go in, or maybe it's just index and thumb. They go into the little bag or whatever it is, and then it goes those fingers
into the mouth.
You have right here a variation on the knuckle dunk in the milk.
Knuckle dunk. Oh, fair.
It is the Brian Knuckle. No, what was his name? Doesn't matter. I'll try whatever his name from American Idol. Those one season.
Okay.
People, when you have those little bitsy things, no one wants to spill it. And in fact, people may be trying to not broach etiquette by making a mess on the game. So what they do is, in order to make sure it gets into their mouth, those fingers come in like the spaceships landing on the Death Star coming into the bay. It's like Independence Day when Jeff Goldblum and Will Smith get into that ship and they enter the big mothership and they come in. That's what the fingers are doing. They come on in and they go in, and a lot of times they go at least one knuckle, but they can go 2 knuckles.
Sure.
That can go 2 knuckles deep into someone's mouth.
Hopefully
multiple times. And then it's like, let me pick up this card, or let me move this tile, or let me touch this communal property with my knuckles, my fingers that just went deep into the back of my mouth. Horrific. And in fact, I will just say this. The other day, we were at Game Brain. Someone, I don't know who did it, but someone busted out little bags of peanuts or trail mix. And I'm telling you, everyone at the table was eating this stuff. And I saw fingers going into every single person's mouth at one point. Or sometimes what you get is like this weird drive-by thing where the fingers it'll be in the palm, and then you put the palm up to your mouth, and then it's like the tongue then it's coming in, and so now it's like all over your palm. And I was watching everyone at the table doing it, and I was like, you guys are all just sticking your fingers in your mouths and just touching all these pieces. I was like, this is disgusting. It was vile. When you actually look at it.
Oh, sure. Like,
it's horrific to see. Like,
one of the things that's supposed to be pretty awful to watch in a human is just for them to eat.
Yeah.
Like people, people are, it can be very unsexy.
Which, by the way, is if you are eating by the game, eat with your mouth closed.
Yeah.
That's just a general good rule for life. Eat with your mouth closed.
Yeah. No, 100%. I think you have turned me away from itsy bitsy.
I feel like because itsy bitsy seems like the best, right? Like trail mix seems like a great snack for game night. But you get literally everyone's knuckles are in their mouth at all times. And it goes on and on and on. And it never stops. And you just look up and there's someone else sticking their fingers deep into their mouth.
So this, I believe, is, an appropriate venue for a light shaming. Because someone like puts their trail mix fingers into their mouth and then you go, freeze! And then you go, look what you're doing.
You're under arrest.
What are you going to do with those fingers? What are you going to do with those fingers? You're going to lick those fingers and you're going to touch the piece. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Everyone at the table will go in some mid version of putting their fingers in their mouth. And then you go and everyone will laugh and no one will ever do it again.
I think in our group, there will be at least 2 people who will do it multiple times over and over again. And by the way, here's another side thing. I don't know if this is, I don't know how to classify this, because I feel like it's more than just like a peanut butter. I don't think there's ever a concern about peanut butter at game night, right? But I have seen one time someone was eating a full-on thing and it got stuck on their back teeth, and they went in while playing the game and they stuck their finger all the way in. When something gets stuck behind your back tooth,
yeah, sure.
And you're like trying to get with your tongue, you can't. So they stuck their finger all the way deep in and scraped it out. I watched them, and then
picked their butt and did it again. And
they went and they just went back to holding their cards.
Yeah, no.
And I was actually repulsed. So that's not really that's more in the hygiene camp of be mindful of your fingers.
Which is a sequel to this episode by hygiene.
Well, that's coming up next. That's like the second half of this list is like now the cleanliness part, because this is all about like the foods, like be aware of the foods that you're doing. But like if you've got food stuck in the back of your mouth, that's fine, scrape it out. But like just run your finger under a faucet or something afterwards, like, or at least wipe it with a napkin. I mean, like, just do something.
No, I hear you, Ben.
Okay. So, you know what? The next item on my list was don't lick your fingers clean. So that's just more of that.
Sure.
Okay. So itsy bitsy begets
finger clean.
We're now talking about putting fingers in mouths now.
Yeah.
Also, don't bite your nails at the game table, because it's more fingers in the mouth.
Basically, any finger in mouth is wrong. You
really shouldn't. Again, like sometimes it happens. Like if a finger touches the lip, I don't mind if a finger touches a lip. Like I feel like you can't be so rigid, right?
But these are considerations, like
it's more like really entering in.
Okay, I understand what you're saying.
Thank you. I need some yes ands right now.
That's right.
So biting nails again. That's a hard one, because that's a habit that if you're a nail biter, that's like really, it's hard to. You've been told probably a million times in your life, don't do that. Mm-hmm. So it's not like, oh, I'm going to be the one that breaks the cycle for you. But if you can, if you're aware of yourself doing it and at a game table, just stop.
But just worry about that reputation. Bad reputation.
Well, here we go. Here's a big one.
Uh-oh. Is this targeted?
If it's not going in the mouth, where else might it go?
In the nose?
In the nose. You could have said butthole too, but I don't think most people are doing that.
But
the nose. I think most people, like, picking your nose in public is very shamed in life.
Sure.
So most people don't full on pick their nose. People don't usually go in there and really try to get like a booger out. But what happens is there's a more insidious version
of nose picking.
It's the nostril flick, where you it's like if you have like a
this is a great material.
Like, so if doing like I think just like doing this, like you've got the back of your hand and you go back and forth over the front of your nose, that's fine.
It's neutral.
But I think when you do, what happens is sometimes if something is itching a little bit inside the nostril and you go in there and you kind of like you just sort of go in. I'm going to demonstrate for you, Paul. This is not going to be pleasant for you to see. Okay. But like, if someone does like this, a lot of times, like
you don't have to demonstrate.
Thumb is in the nostril, and maybe index finger is outside the nostril, and it's like a little like that. It's like a little like this thing. Like I'm now wiping my fingers on the chair.
Yeah, I got it. Like,
so I think the reason why that's insidious is because it happens so quickly, and you're not even paying attention that like you don't even realize that you're doing it.
Sure, no, it's
But try not to stick your finger in your nostrils while you're touching communal game pieces, because it's disgusting.
Sure.
I needed to have a moment of silence there for people to really, for it to be impactful.
Wait. So let me do my impression of it. Please don't put your finger in your nose. It's disgusting.
And I guess ears too.
Yeah, sure.
But I don't think ears is as much of an issue. All right, here's the last one. I know it seems like it could go on forever, but this last one is one that I think is actually so important, and it applies beyond game night, and everyone should do this. And I am shocked at how many people don't do it, but I'm even more shocked when people don't do it for game night, which is if you go to use the bathroom, wash your hands.
Oh, really?
My game table is located about like 10 feet from the bathroom. If I hear the toilet flush and someone comes out the door 3 seconds later, I know you did not wash your hands. Also, because I can hear when the sink runs.
Sure.
So there are times when I know for a fact that someone has just peed and then they've come back and started playing games again. And that to me is so inappropriate and so irresponsible and just gross.
Yeah, no.
Like that's something that would get you uninvited from my house.
Like I will say to you that what you're describing is well within the normal asking of humans.
Right. But now that's one where I think it's like if you say to someone, did you wash your hands? I don't know. I guess was that what you, it's hard to do that one without sounding like a nag. Right. Like, I think that's my biggest thing is that I'm going through this whole thing, but like, I don't want to be a nag, but like that's inherent. So, okay, let me tell you something.
Yep.
On Friday, a few days ago, I was in New York City. I went to see Chicago, the musical, which I'd never seen on Broadway. And I was seated behind this older couple, and they got drunk. And in the second act, they were just just talking. And so I started doing the shh. Because I don't mind.
They had it coming.
They had it coming.
They had themselves to blame.
And you know what? I gave them the old razzle dazzle. I think because they were strangers, I didn't mind so much about being a full nag. But I was like, shh. And they just weren't listening. And so then I tapped the lady on the shoulder. And I was like, tap and I go, shh. And there was a group of 4, actually. And the ladies next to me who I didn't know, they were emboldened by me going, shh. They started going, shh. They were going nuts. Right. And then the lady goes, would you please stop talking? At one point, she really, so anyway, when I tapped this lady on the shoulder to be like, shh, her husband turned around and just stared at me like, how dare you tap my wife on the shoulder? Admittedly, in retrospect, I don't think I shouldn't tap on the shoulder because people are like, oh, you put your fingers on someone. But like, you're staring at me like I'm the asshole in this situation, but I'm the one who paid like nearly $200 for this seat, for this experience that you're talking through.
Yeah.
You know, but it's like, that's the thing. Like, you don't want to be the nag, but the truth is, it's like, you don't want to be all of a sudden me, like that the other person is the one who's being thoughtless.
Sure.
But me as the host or the owner of the game is now like, I'm the one who feels bad about being the nag.
Yeah. Well, I personally feel that you just say, dude, go wash your hands after you touch your penis. Boom. Done. Like, I'm going to tell you right now, the people at game night will not wash their hands.
That, you know what, we're gonna have a bathroom shaming policy going forward. Right. Which is
you go in your house, just so you know, things like please no itsy bitsy
snacks.
And if you come out of the bathroom without washing your hands, you will be heavy shamed.
That's because I think that is a heavy shame situation, because you should always wash your hands after you go to the bathroom anytime, whether it's game night or not. I'm sorry if there's anyone who feels like, well, it depends. I didn't poop. No. Wash those hands. Wash those hands.
There you go.
I have some suggestions for some real quickly, some snacks I think are actually
so not only is there
trying to end with on a note of hope.
Exactly. Here's some things that you can do, everyone, that will improve your
chances of getting invited back.
And I will say, you have a coveted invitation.
So I think that cheese is actually a pretty good snack.
Okay.
Cheese, one could make maybe not like a runny brie, but I think cheddars or hard cheeses are good. Sure. Like crumbly cheeses become a little bit more of an issue. But I think putting out just a simple cheese plate is those are really good snacks.
Sure.
Of course, people are lactose intolerant, so there's that. But I think,
don't use those honey glazed peanuts.
No, I think you would just do a large sized almond that's bigger than an itsy bitsy, you know?
Yes, that's right.
But I think that use your judgment, but I think a firm cheese would be generally as a good snack that could actually be on the table.
Yep.
And I think that crackers and pretzels.
Crackers.
I think if you're doing cheese and cracker.
Yeah, but crackers can often with the bite create dust.
But dust can be brushed off. Oh. It's more it's not destructive.
How
not sticky.
But the dust will.
The dust will be annoying, but it's not. It's not.
Oh no. But like things that are dusted. How is the dust from a cracker different from like a Cheeto?
Because the Cheeto dust. Well, first of all, the Cheeto dust is is a stain. So like you wouldn't like a Cheez-It would maybe not be as good. But it's like a lot of times that dust is like gets sticky and gets on
sugar. The sugar.
But I think if you eat like a Ritz with your or like a wheat thin or a Triscuit, like it might make crumbs, but it's not going to be destructive.
Okay.
Yeah, and same with a pretzel.
Great.
But maybe not one of those like honey mustard pretzels.
Sure.
You know.
I hear you.
And I think that like actually like there's a large number of potato chips that are fine.
Okay.
Like especially a Pringles can be really good. A barbecue potato chip will not be good.
Dusted.
Right. And like most tortilla chips are, I think all tortilla chips are probably fine.
Sure.
Right. Again, it's like dry.
Yeah.
I think popcorn is largely okay.
Okay. Once again, not dusted.
Yeah, just use your judgment. Like you don't like a yellowy dusted popcorn. No.
Maybe an olive oil popcorn. Maybe that might be a problem too because oil.
Maybe, but I think that like by the way, a caramel popcorn is probably fine because it's so hard. Like,
sure.
But again, like maybe follow the rules of peanut butter cups, which is like keep it moving.
Yeah.
Keep it moving from finger to mouth.
And if it's caramel, like don't second knuckle it into your mouth.
Yeah, like it's popcorn. You do run, and there is like an itsy bitsy. Like you don't have to like take an entire thing and put it. You just be mindful. And I think actually, believe it or not, I think actually this is tricky, but I think a lot of cookies are safe too.
Interesting.
Like an Oreo.
Sure.
But you know, you do run a risk. Like there are some cookies, like most chocolate chip cookies are good, but they could melt. You could get some meltiness. So just be mindful. But I think that like by and large, cookies are good.
Okay.
And especially if you hand out like little plates, that keeps crumbs down. Again, it keeps things contained. I have also found that when you hand out little plates, people often like to make a little station. And then when they have a little station, they're like, okay, I eat my food over here in my little station and I play my game over here. Whereas if you just have stuff around,
Sure. No,
you know,
I hear you.
And that's why I think something like a slice of cake is actually generally okay because it's going to be on a plate. There'll be a fork. There'll be a spoon. You know,
unless there are some monster,
right? And honestly, oddly enough, ice cream because it's in a bowl. Just don't eat it over the.
As dangerous as it may seem, it's self-contained, much
it's
like
self-contained.
radioactive waste.
Yeah, and again, you're not like don't do an ice cream sandwich. That would actually be terrible because that's the sandwich goes. Don't do a cone. Don't do a drumstick. Don't do a pop. But a bowl of ice cream, as long as you're careful about dripping. But I think dripping falls more under accident, right, than breaching out etiquette, right?
Like it seems to be that the biggest trespass is a lack of consideration.
Yeah, I think that's what it ultimately is. Because people can eat food around games and there can be an accident and it's an accident. But there's some times where people eat food in a way that they're just not mindful of how this food could sort of like will always create a problem.
Yeah, here.
Well, I feel like we just talked for a very long time about finger etiquette, but I think it was important to get it on the record.
I have to say also, like, you know, the opinion of Ben Menikar do not necessarily reflect.
They don't. And by the way, you know what? Like my therapist says, it's better to like say how you feel, and then people can react to how you feel, and then you can react to that. You can have like an honest discourse than it is to try to please people. So if I offended people, to anyone who I offended by seeming super ornery, just know that you probably have probably driven me crazy at some point. You've probably done something that I've had to bite my tongue and said, not near my game.
And if you've gotten to the end of this podcast, like, please write us and tell me what you think.
Yeah, tell us what you think. Tell us like which of these things you agree with, which you think are too far and too draconian. I would love to hear what other people do and also what people's strategies are for like striking that balance between trying to be a good and welcoming host versus also having healthy boundaries about games and your property, you know, because it's tricky. It's really, really hard.
Definitely. That's why I'm just a consumer.
Yeah. That's the thing. If you're just a consumer, there's no pressure. But if you own the game,
but as a consumer, then you're responsible to not be a jerk.
And see, Exactly. You are responsible to not be a jerk. And as a host, you're also responsible to not be a jerk because you want people to want to play with you and invite you to things. Yeah. So I realize I may have just sacrificed my reputation as a fun person to invite to a game day.
If there is people talking about you, at least they're talking about you.
No, for real though, I would love to hear what people say about this topic because I'm so curious. I think board game etiquette is so fascinating, and this is just like one small slice of it, just your fingers. I love talking about etiquette. So anyway, I think that wraps it up. I think that's everything that we could possibly have to say about fingers and our board game. So without further ado, is there anything else that you wanted to say about this topic?
Oh no, I had a great time.
Okay, good. I'm glad you did. You have been listening to Game Brain, produced and edited by Matthew Robinson, Tom Donnelly, Trey Alsop, and Ben Mandelker. Special thanks to Daedalus for our incredible music. More on Daedalus at GameBrainPod.com. And thanks to Edamar Peleg for our incredible graphics. Be sure to check him out on Instagram at Kerbuloni or his website, Kerbuloni.com. You can reach us by email at contact@GameBrainPod.com. Thanks for listening, and go play some games with friends or make some friends with games. As long as those friends have good finger etiquette.